looking for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are composer, performer Jef Bek, and artist, filmmaker Joao Machado. Teacher, performer, musician, and sound designer, for which he's been nominated for numerous awards, including the Ovation Award, Jef Bek was born and raised in Chicago. He attended Harper College and the American Conservatory of Music. Jef moved to Los Angeles in 1995, I think to warm up from the cold Chicago weather. Is that when you founded the Zoo Theater, when you came?
Soon after.
Soon after. And what was that?
Well, when I first arrived, I had previously worked with Tim Robbins in Chicago. So the first place I checked was the Actors Gang.
Oh.
And I worked at the Actors Gang for a little while, and then discovered that some other fellow Chicago artists were out here. And so we formed Zoo District.
Oh, is that what it was? Was it patterned after something you had in Chicago?
No, it's actually John Kellum was directing Bertolt Brecht's Drums in the Night. And there's a scene that takes place in the Zoo District.
Oh,
so that's where we got our name.
Got the name of it? Was an acting group, wasn't it, or was it just a theater? Was it a group of actors
Zoo
together?
District? Yeah, we were a group of artists, actors, musicians, designers, and.
Did you have your own theater? Or
no,
did you play in different places?
We would play in different places.
And then when you were in Chicago, you worked with John Cusack. For 8 years?
Yeah.
Is that the actor, John Cusack?
John Cusack, yeah.
Is his family from there?
Yeah, from Evanston, that's where I'm from. And yeah, our first show was in 1988. That was written by Tim Robbins, called Alakazam After the Dog Wars.
Oh, he was there then? Mm-hmm. He was in Chicago. What was it called? New Crime Productions?
New Crime Productions, and it was exciting. It's I come from a background of rock and roll mostly, growing up from the early 70s. And then when I got involved with New Crime Productions, we did this style of theater called Commedia dell'arte. It was this high energy style of theater. So I was able to integrate these high energy textures into theater.
So did you design? What were you doing with them?
Well,
more than sound design.
Yeah, well, New Crime Productions was doing all of their plays in the Commedia dell'arte style. So it's a very heightened reality. So they were always playing the scene either extremely happy, sad, angry, or frightened. So the music, much like kabuki theater, would react. And with every moment, the music would have to represent exactly the mood that's happening at the moment. So it really extrapolated a lot of reaction.
Did you compose?
Yeah.
So it was all new music
all new
that you were putting. Oh, I see. So you composed music for each one of those productions all that time? Oh, so that's what you're talking about as far as
interaction.
The emotion and the interaction.
Yeah. Because I feel that it's much, theater, what's different about theater than film is that it's people performing for people. You're there, it's live. So I'm much more interested in live musical interaction than I am in recorded interaction.
I see. So you also work for Steppenwolf Theater, and you were part of that Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Was that the first time it was done, or was it an interpretation of it?
It was the first time it was done in America. It had been done by the Royal Shakespeare Festival.
I see.
And then in our production in 1995, Anthony Burgess was actually there while we were rehearsing it, and he passed away 3 weeks before we opened.
Oh, so did he give you some
It was
tips
great. Yeah, it was beautiful to work with him, and it was exciting for me and for him to see the final chapter of Clockwork Orange, because in the movie you don't have the final chapter.
And do they have any kind of the music? that you worked with, or you
music,
composed it all?
For Clockwork Orange, the music was interactive. There wasn't, I wouldn't say songs.
It was
mostly interactive.
Was it computer generated?
No,
not
it was all
at that
live.
time, right?
No, it was all live. We had percussion on stage. We had a string quartet on stage.
Oh, in your production,
My production, yeah.
But in the movie, I was wondering.
In the movie, it's all recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You worked with children's theater too.
Mm-hmm.
So you were working a lot in Chicago.
In Chicago, I developed a company called Kids' Rights that would go into the inner cities that did not have musical programs in their theater, and myself and several actors would take the writings of the inner city children.
What they actually wrote themselves?
Yeah, what they would actually, we would discuss with them what they wanted to do a project about. We would take their writings and develop those into pieces, and the kids would come on stage, and it was wonderful, great experience.
And before I'm going through your whole career,
okay.
You're the drummer in the Who.
Yes, the Who's Tommy. I was
Tommy.
the touring drummer for the Broadway production. We went all over the United States and Canada, and that was where I really started to think, all right, I want to stage Evel Knievel, the rock opera.
Is that when that started?
Well,
but you also did Quills in Berlin and London.
I did Quills in Prague and Berlin, yeah.
In Prague, right, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here you are, you're doing all this stuff, but you're composing, and are you acting at all?
No.
You're playing music
Playing
sometimes.
music.
Are you conducting?
Mostly just playing.
Mostly playing.
Yeah.
And you come to California, and you find your same group of people that you're familiar with.
Right.
In
yeah.
Los Angeles.
Zoo District was doing very original work, and then I had wanted to do Evel Knievel, the rock opera, for so long.
Well, we're just gonna hold this up.
Okay.
But how long did it take to do this? Evel Knievel, the rock opera. You have two CDs.
Yeah, that's the full length of the CD.
I'm going to show you this one because I think this looks great.
The whole show is going to run about an hour and a half, hour 45, and it's all music, no speaking.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's very much like...
in the true opera fashion,
yeah.
But the music is inspired by the classic rock era of the early 70s, so the music has that sound.
Well, how did you find Evel Knievel to write a rock opera about? Why wasn't it Tommy Rock or what's her name?
Well, you know, I actually originally had the idea in '91 when I was working with John Cusack's New Crime Productions. I wanted to write something that was dramatic, that was rock and roll, and so the idea just came to me that he would be a great subject.
But did you know him?
I didn't. In fact, in 2001 when I started to write it, it wasn't until 2003 that I actually met him, played him the music, and he was genuinely moved.
You had already started. You researched him. You found.
Yep.
I knew Evel since I was a young girl.
Yeah.
So I've known Evel forever, but I wouldn't ever think that a Jef Bek, a composer, somebody who's been on Broadway toured, would ever even know about him or think about him.
I'm glad I met him. Meeting him has really been a very passionate experience, and there's so many layers to his personality, as you know.
He must have caught your eye, though, just because of the headlines or because of the crazy jumps that he would make. My father produced or promoted him when he was first starting. He would be like the halftime show before he ever went to the Coliseum or Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And so you must have researched all those jumps that he did?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And all the broken bones?
All the broken bones. And what's fascinating to me about him is, you know, he's a man of his word, and he decided as a young boy that he wanted to live this life of a daredevil, and he followed his childhood dream. Not many of us can say that. And, you know, when as you know, when your father promotes a show, he's going to do that show, even if he broke his leg 2 weeks previous.
Oh, no, you could depend on him.
You can depend on
it.
That's what I mean. He's
in a cast, he'll come.
He'll come, whatever shape he's in, and he'll perform. And I really think that's, not many people have that quality.
That's what I thought was interesting when you just said he's a man of his word, because I think he and my dad used to just do it on a handshake.
Yeah, the power of a handshake. You know, now it's like my attorney will call your attorney, and you know, I'm a bit old school in that sense. When I tell somebody I'm going to do something, then they can count on it, and
Well,
that's what strikes me as Evil said about your dad when I spoke with him, is that he said that your dad, his word is gold, and that's important.
I know it's hard to find that nowadays.
It is. It's fleeting.
But it's great that you found it, and you really saw it, because to write this without knowing the person.
I felt I knew him from what I read. I felt that I could relate to this child that wants to make something of himself. I could relate to that. And one quote that Evil says that really sticks with me is, "You're never a failure until you refuse to get up." And that says a lot. And that says a lot. And we all go through difficult periods, but that never give up, that can-do attitude really drove me through the writing process.
So you wrote it, then you had a backers audition. What's the next process? You recorded the music?
Well, it's all written, and we're going to perform it this spring at the Bootleg Theater. We open April 13th.
Bootleg Theater is something
formerly the Evidence Room.
Evidence Room, and wasn't it run by the Center Theater Group or the Music Center downtown? Mark Taper, did they have anything to do with it? No, they didn't. Oh, it was like an experimental theater, right?
Yeah, they were originally
in space.
The space was originally in Culver City, and then they moved to Broadway and Alvarado. I don't know the exact year.
Now they're on Beverly Boulevard.
Beverly and Alvarado.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a great breeding ground for new work. I did Nosferatu there in 2001.
Oh, you did?
And that was very successful.
So do you take your whole team in? You do the sound design, because you're a sound designer. That's where you're forte.
Well, but for this one, I'm focusing on the composer, writer. I have a sound designer in a gentleman named Eric Snodgrass who is doing the sound design for this. He's great.
And what kind of cast will it be?
Well, right now we're about 20 plus singers and 6 musicians, great design team.
But you say it's all music. They sing though, right?
They sing the whole show.
Oh, it's all sung.
It's all sung.
See, I didn't know if there were any words with it. So it tells the story through a chorus, or do you have individuals?
Yeah, there's individual singers. There's someone playing Evil. There's someone playing Linda Knievel, Evil's wife.
Right.
And I loved
writing. What about Robbie?
Well, Robbie's not in this version.
He's not in it. That's his son, who wasn't at this point, right?
Right, but for the story, my focus is on Evil, and I was really excited to write songs for Linda Knievel, because she has this duality of loving a daredevil, but Evil's the father of her children, so she's torn. Her songs are very torn. So it's there's a lot of dynamics to the show. There's the rocking songs you would expect, but there are these very tender moments where, Linda's conflicted.
And then do you help with the casting?
Yeah, it was exciting to find our singers. There's a gentleman named Jason Page who sang with us, who's an outstanding singer, playing Evil. And we're moving forward.
I'm so glad you came. This was very exciting when I heard about it. And lots of luck, and I'm sure we're all going to hear, because it's such a name that people want to hear anyway.
And I should tell you also, we've been invited to perform at Evil Knievel Days, the end of May.
In Butte. In Butte, Montana. That's
July, the end of July, sorry.
That's so cool.
Butte, Montana will be there at the end of July.
That's great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And don't go away. We'll be right back with artist Joao Machado, who did the work on the set today. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Brazilian artist, filmmaker, Joao Machado was born in São Paulo. He studied at the Academy of Fine Arts in Paris, New York University, and earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Art Center College of Design in 1999. Joao, you studied art, but you also studied film.
Yes, film and fine arts go hand in hand with my work, and it's something that I've been developing together with my fine art work and my film work.
How did it start? Film first or fine art first?
Well, obviously the fine arts. I think I have drawings drawings that I did before I was even able to walk.
Is that when you started working?
So I think that that explains that. I'm from Brazil. I was born in Rio de Janeiro, not São Paulo, by the way.
Oh, you were born in Rio.
Rio.
Woo.
Yeah. And I moved to Paris when I was 8. My father is a painter. He's a fine artist.
Oh.
And
he was painting in Paris, or he was painting in Rio?
In Rio at the time. I was born there, and I remember when I was 8 years old, I got home from school one day, and my father was sitting down at a table, and there was a pile of money on the table, and I was like, "What is it?" They invited me to sit down, so I sat down, and he goes, "Son, this is you see this." This is to pay for the roof that's leaking. This is to pay for the school. This is to pay for all the costs of daily life in Brazil. And he said, with the same amount of money, we could live a year in France, in Paris.
Oh, is that right?
And we can see what happens. So
How
what do you think?
interesting.
And I was 8, so it was interesting for a father to ask,
That's a
an
really
8-year-old.
interesting approach, though, to have it sitting
to parenting.
there.
Right.
Oh, how interesting.
So I said, sure, why not? And next thing I knew, we were in Paris, and he was trying to get his fine art work going, and one thing led to another. 1 year led to another, and I lived there for 10 years.
Is that right?
Yes.
And did your father paint there?
Yes, he was a painter to this day. I mean, he's still very active.
Is he in Paris now?
Yes.
Oh.
And in France is where I began to study film.
Oh, that's why you went to the university? You didn't? Did you study film at the university?
No, in Paris it was fine arts. But
it was fine arts.
I had a discovery with cinema there. I was about 14, 15 at the time, and I didn't necessarily want a career in fine arts at the time. I was kind of searching, and I met an old lady her name was Odette Dagon, and she was a contemporary of the filmmaker Jean Renoir and François Truffaut, and she taught art history on Saturdays and film on Sundays.
Oh, what a wonderful influence.
It was amazing. And so I was able to, after school and when school was out, to go to her house. And her house was probably as big as this area we're talking about here. And it was all covered in books. And that was my main training, I think, in life, more than anywhere else, because it was the spark that triggered everything that followed.
You didn't need the university after that. I mean,
I was ready for it.
You were,
Yeah.
But to hear someone tell the tales of what she had gone through with those fine filmmakers.
Mm-hmm. And art history as well. I mean, it was.
And
that's
she
why
knew
that's
the
why I
art
say
history
that
too.
film and art history and art and.
Well, I was thinking, because I thought you were from Rio, and I was thinking film in Brazil is noted, and fine arts. São Paulo has the Biennale.
Oh, of course,
and
yes. It's very strong there.
It's a big art
Very strong.
country, right?
Very strong. I mean, the
Do you ever go back to take a part of that?
absolutely. I mean, I try to transit as much as possible in these 3 poles, L.A. being one of them, Rio, and Paris.
So you speak French,
French,
you speak Portuguese, and you speak Spanish?
A little bit, but Portuguese and Spanish is very close, and it's
Yeah.
very, you can understand. If you speak slow Portuguese, I can understand.
You can understand
Yeah.
it. So the inspiration for the artwork came from the film, or the other way around?
It's a big. I think it's one. I consider myself a storyteller. So either if I'm working in a medium such as on a canvas or on celluloid or on a book, or it's about telling stories.
Is this like part of it? What was this?
That's an example of it. This was a project I did 2 years ago. It's basically a photonovela. I don't know if people in the States are familiar with it.
A small story.
In Mexico and in Italy during the 20s, in the first half of the 20th century, it was very common to have photonovelas. It's basically like a comic book, but with pictures instead of drawings.
If I open it,
You can flip through it.
I'll open it this way.
And this was a project that was very much in that vein, and it's a story from start to
Would
finish.
it be like a storyboard for a film?
a storyboard for a film?
Is that what you do too?
But I view it as a completed project. I mean, this is something that's completed, and I went to France last year with this already finished. and it got very well acceptance from galleries and from museums. It's at the Pompidou Museum.
Yes, is it?
At the Jeu de Paume, which is also a very reputable place, and
Yes.
I was happy to be a part of that.
That's so great. You're represented by Daryl Couturier, the Couturier Gallery.
Mm-hmm.
Does Daryl have any kind of influence on your work?
Well,
I'm gonna
we
hold
just
this
met.
up.
Oh,
you
me and
have?
Daryl, we have just met, and it was actually a wonderful meeting. I mean, we.
He loves Latino,
Right.
South American.
Right.
He represents
Latin American
Cuban,
art.
Latin American art. So it's like a perfect fit.
It is.
But this is so different from what he has in the gallery.
Mm-hmm.
From drawing. You're drawing in a different way.
Well, we.
This drawing is what?
This is actually not a drawing. This is a collage made with maps.
But it's like a drawing
Right.
to me.
Right.
You draw in collage,
Right.
is what I was thinking.
Yes, my palette is about 5 suitcases filled with old atlases.
Where do you find them?
Old bookstores and
Do you?
people. Everybody that I talk to, I ask them if they can give me their high school atlases.
Is that right?
I have quite a
What
bit.
is this then? Do they have special meanings? Like, is this woman?
They have the maps do, you know, and it's all the process of storytelling that I was talking about earlier. That
There's no political message here.
No.
Okay.
No, it's about the maps, and it's the maps as a metaphor for life. I mean, everybody needs a map, you know, we need maps to understand the physical world, you know, to get to one place to another. We look to maps to understand the spiritual world, as in astrology.
Yeah.
You know, maps is how we see the world.
This is a Brazilian map.
Yes.
So some of them are.
So what I do is everywhere I go,
Yes.
I collect maps of that region, and I make these observations, the way I see the world, people I see, people I meet, characters I come across, and I do them with the maps of the places that I'm in.
Okay. So this
So
is
this
a
was
nice
this was in
blonde,
Rio, yes.
and I'm going to show this one. I love this. He's on the phone.
Yes, that's in Paris. The background is a map of Paris.
And are these people individuals, or are they out of your mind? Are they out? Did you make them up?
Some are people I know. Some are characters I create, and it's really about serving the purpose of the maps of the location of where I am, and so the characters serve as actors for. This was in Paris, and
You're going to be in the LA Art Show.
the LA Art Show, which is from the 25th through the 28th
And it's
of this month.
And it's every year, the
Every
LA
year.
Art Show. It's at the Barker Pavilion. You're going to be in a booth for
With
Couturier.
Couturier Gallery, Daryl Couturier.
So how important is that to your career, to be in an
It's
art
a big
show?
deal.
Is it?
It's a big deal, yes. And I just arrived in LA about 4 months ago. I mean, I went to school here.
I thought
and
so.
I know LA very well, but this is my first approach here with my fine art work.
So how do you decide what shows? There's shows all over the world. I mean, Basel, Florida, Venice. How do you decide, and how do you get into a show like that, an art show?
For me, Paris and Rio are easier places for me to easier access because it's where I was raised, and I have a lot of contacts, and I know how it works.
Would you be in shows there?
Yes.
Art shows
Yes,
like this?
yes.
Because you have a booth. That's not like a gallery, right? Somebody comes in.
And this is just a showing of everybody. Every gallery brings their talent, and they want to show the world what they have to offer.
And people come from all over.
And people come to see what they have, and this is sort of a bridge between the gallery and the world, and everybody meets in this common place.
Do you have a chance to pick what you want to be shown, or does the dealer pick what he wants to be shown?
It depends on where you are in the. I mean, since I'm starting out here in LA, I mean, in Los Angeles, I'm in an observatory position.
You're watching it, huh?
I'm watching it. I mean, I'm still trying to feel it out, because it's very important when you arrive in a place to arrive the right way and arrive in.
With your kind of work, you can do this work anywhere, can't you? I mean, you can
that's
do
the
it
idea.
in a hotel
it's
room,
to travel
right?
and
But you have on this piece, you have some
there's some
other-
etching there. This is an earlier piece.
I love this
I'm slowly moving away from that though.
because you have your hand in it in a different way.
Right.
The painting or the drawing
Yeah.
pencils.
Because I think that the only rule that I gave myself to this is the only guideline is that it should be only maps. So I
Oh,
shouldn't
so
draw.
that's
I
why-
shouldn't. So this is one of the earlier
this
ones.
drawing
It's
down
still an
here.
exploration.
I see.
The one over here is a later one.
This one, and this is much more intricate. You've like cut the
It's getting a
streets
lot
out.
more complicated, and they're getting bigger. These are small ones. I figured it wouldn't be enough space to bring, but some of them are 6 feet by 3 feet. I mean, they're huge, and they're very impactful when they're big. And
Well, this at a distance, when you look at it up close, you can't tell what it is. But how do you cut the streets out? Do you use scissor or a razor?
an X-Acto knife,
An X-Acto
and a lot of patience.
Yeah.
And I think the storytelling element of this happens with a distance. When you see it from a distance, you see a drawing, an image of a man
Yeah.
you know, with a sweater. It looks like a sweater.
This is harder to tell. The one behind you is very easy to tell.
right.
And where's that from? The one behind
This is
you?
from Paris. It has a lot of subway maps, a lot of road maps, and some of the Seine, the river. And his hair is done in. Actually, his hair is from somewhere else.
Oh,
So-
his hair is not from there.
No, his hair is from somewhere else. It's actually from Spain. I think it's Toledo.
So there.
So
I
they-
can't believe it. It's really interesting. And then I started thinking maybe it's very political, but it's not. It's more about the areas, I guess, right?
If ever there is a political element, it's probably within the frontiers and that element. But to me, it's really about the maps and this maps as a metaphor for our search, because it's how we once we discover something, we want to write it down, and that's a map, you know. And
And
so-
you're doing
so it's a-
without
it's a-
words. Without
Right.
words, without paint,
right
without charcoal or
with maps, strictly maps.
strictly matte. Well, it was very, very interesting. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for
Thank
coming.
you very much. It was a pleasure.
Joan Machado. And thank you for watching today. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. See you next time.